Well, it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad to say that we are back at the rather beautiful Ruffs Lake in Peterborough. The curse of COVID-19 has meant that we've not been able to come here for the best part of a year, but we're back today. The venue looks as amazing as ever. I was hoping to come here in the summer, but as I said, we haven't been able to do that. I'm looking forward to catching up with Matt and the rest of the boys, and they've got two rather interesting tasks ahead of them today. You can probably hear the chainsaw in the background, and it is that sound that I'm heading towards. Right, Matt, well, it's good to see you again.
Likewise, yep.
Can you fill us in on what's been going on? I know it's not been a lot, but what is the status of play as we stand here now with regard to this lake?
Yeah, so thinking back, obviously a while ago now, and everything that's sort of changed in the meantime. So when we sort of last met, I think we were talking about chalking, barley straw in the lake, wind lanes, potentially cages to feed the fish underneath and stuff like that. A lot of that's gone by the by because of lockdown, and we missed the windows for it in the spring. But as it stands now, we've basically cut wind lanes, which the guys are doing at the moment, to get more wind and air onto the water, and we're also putting cages in so we can get some food into the fish in that sort of shallow water, stop the swans getting it really.
Has that been the general consensus for the whole of Embryo? Like how has lockdown affected Embryo as a whole? Have you still been able to carry on, or has it, obviously I know for a lot of people it put an end to what they could do day to day, but you do work in the outdoors.
Yeah.
What effect has it had?
I think lockdown one, when it was full bore, sort of thousands of people dying every day, it was tough for us. Most of the guys were furloughed. In fact, at one point it was just me. So big portfolio of lakes all over the country, so you're just prioritising what you can do by yourself, legitimately. I don't really want to be travelling all over the country, but by the same thing, a lake that's got 900 stock fish in needs to be fed, and actually have someone on the ground seeing what's going on. So it was an interesting time. We've had sort of vandalism, all sorts of carry on going on with people breaking in, walking round. Just a massive headache really, but in the bigger picture I suppose we've got it better than a lot of other people really, but yeah.
And today, we're back at the lake, and the priority today is back on those wind lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. Just doing everything we can, thinking really for next summer. So, trying to get as much oxygen as we can in that critical period next year. So that's what the measures are about now, making sure we can get food to the fish, and also that the oxygen levels are more stable going into the hot period next year really. With this lake, basically, it's sort of a bit of a perfect storm for inhospitable conditions for fish, basically, because the lake is extremely shallow. Most of it's sort of under 2 foot deep, a lot of it. The deepest bits are 3-4 feet, and there's hardly any of that, to be honest. What makes it really difficult here, obviously you can just see all the leaves and everything that we're standing in the, so that depletes a lot of the oxygen all through the autumn when they go in. But then through the warmer months, because it's so shallow, it gets very weedy, it's a clear lake, and then you get these big sort of weed cycles up and down through the day. And then when you factor in algae blooms, which again this suffers from a lot, it's that kind of perfect storm of just poor oxygen throughout the year really. Basically when the leaves go in, it draws the oxygen out as the bacteria in the lake is breaking down the leaf matter. That's what reduces the oxygen, and well, it's as simple as that essentially. So you imagine, you just have to look around here, the sheer amount that goes in, you can just see the oxygen to slowly drop down. You'll see it in your own fishing. I think most people are aware of that now. The kind of mature lakes, small lakes, very enclosed lakes like this, they just fish garbage for a certain period of October as soon as the leaf fall goes in for a month, until it gets cold enough that sort of bacterial action slows down really. As an angler, back in the day, people used to come and cut down trees and stuff on old sort of historic lakes I was fishing, and I wouldn't say I wouldn't be one of the ones who'd had a little bit of a grumble about it. You know, it's not aesthetically great to look at, but you're trying to strike that balance. So here we're basically working where the prevailing wind comes from. We've already started on that last year. We're sort of working round from then. We're not going to take everything, but we are trying to thin it out so you can get a decent blow on. So particularly the low level, all the bramble and new fresh saplings and everything else, which are quite bulky in terms of the density in front of the edge of the lake. We're just taking that out and leaving some of the more established trees, you know, for the aesthetics really. Get to that period in the summer where increasingly you're getting this sort of tropical night thing where, you know, it's 20 degrees for a number of nights back to back through that summer period, and that puts a lot of strain on the lake. When you start factoring in algae blooms and stuff like that as well, it really does have the potential for these big sort of oxygen crash events that you're starting to see on lakes all around the country, and not just little enclosed places like this, but big pits and everything else. As a fishery manager, you sit there and it's those periods where you really worry about places like this. I mean, this is absolutely prime for that kind of big event where you turn up in the morning and everything's dead. So we do as much as we can to mitigate that, you know, with barley straw to reduce the algae blooms, taking the trees out to, you know, to get the wind on the lake and everything else. We've got people with pumps on standby, but you know, that's something, that kind of big oxygen event is something we're very on guard for at the moment. But my understanding with an algae bloom is that essentially you've got all that, you know, all that life in the lake, and then at some point during, generally at night, where be it a low pressure front, a big storm system, whatever it is, that causes the algae to die at once, which, you know, the death of all those organisms takes a lot of the oxygen out. Then it goes, if you get past that initial hump, you know, like a mere style die off in that instance, but then if you get through that stage, all that algae is breaking down in the water, same as the leaves really. That bacterial action of all that breakdown is what's sucking the oxygen out. So there's a lake I fish that's had problems, very, very big lake, but still had issues. You know, you see it go tea brown, and it's green, then you have the crash, and then the whole lake goes tea brown for 2 months. And that brownness is, again, my understanding of it is the bacteria action at work, and you can see that. Again, it's just a hostile place to live for fish at that time. Nothing gets caught, you know, the oxygen's low, etc., etc. The fish cage is basically, where they come from is, this whole lake, as with the rest of it down here really, it's all a bit unique. So it is very shallow, like really shallow. The whole lake is swan depth. There's almost nowhere in here where the swans can't get you, and the only couple of bits that are out of swan depth are pretty yucky, do you know what I mean? Really silty, fish don't use it much. So the issue for us is we're trying to grow these fish and push them on, and essentially every time you put any feed in the lake, the birds just come and eat it instantly. You know, that's part of the reason why we've had to sort of stop the fishing in the first place. You know, people are getting frustrated every time they're baiting up, the birds are straight in and on them. So we just came up with the idea of making these sanctuary areas, if you want to call them that, where the swans in particular can't get in and under, and we can feed those regular for the period while the lake's shut, and then the fish can get in without being bothered, and the birds can't get the feed really. If you came down here with a sack of pellet in, you know, regular season and such and chucked it in, I think the birds would take 95% of it. You know, the fish, they're wild fish, they've been fished for, a lot of them at certain points, you know, they're conditioned to be a little bit cagey. By the time they get here and get on the bait, most of it's gone, you know, and you're never getting anywhere near the percentage you need into the fish. The thing we feed generally is pellet, you know, particularly in the warmer months. You've got the two types, the high oil for when it's red hot, the low oil for, you know, when it's colder in the winter, you know, easier to process, etc. So that's basically what we feed them. We do try and get as much sort of food into lakes as we can. So one thing we do, we subsidise the selling of pellet to our members, you know, to try and encourage the guys to use more pellet to help the fish grow. For the kind of lakes that we've got, you know, these lakes are, a lot of them do have a lot of young fish in, and you do have to look after them. You know, you can't just expect them to to grow and do well on the odd tin of corn here and there.
So it looks to me like that cage is made up of a combination of...
Yeah, it's basically drain pipe
Yeah.
with mesh put over it, yeah.
And a few beach balls thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this construction or what the merits of it are, so...
It looks to me like maybe they're numbered for when you're throwing pellet. If you hit
Exactly
the numbers,
that,
you
yeah,
score.
yeah.
You score points.
Big points.
So looking in the edge here, it's so shallow, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I was to step into there,
Yeah.
could I just walk out to that? I assume I could.
It looks like you could. You'd struggle here. You'd be up to your nuts here and probably have to get you out. Once you get the other side of that cage, you could just roll out to the island, no problem. It's
All the way out there?
All the way out. It's quite hard out there. You know, it literally won't even get past your knees on a lot of it. Really.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad. There's not many places like this. Like this wasn't dug for aggregate or anything. It's dug for the peat.
Mm-hmm.
So the farmer's mate dug this out in the 70s, just came in, took it, whatever it was, 3-4 feet down, and then it's filled up a bit, obviously, with leaf matter in the meantime. But it's not lined, and it is very shallow, very shallow.
And can carp live in shallow water, even shallower than this, providing they have the oxygen? Is that it? All boils down to oxygen and a stable supply of food, I assume.
Yeah, pretty much. Oxygen is a key factor, but yeah, the shallowness, they can survive in it. One thing you have to be a little bit careful, I don't know how true it is, but when we first took this on, we looked into it, is ice in the gills. So if it's really shallow and you get a heavy duty winter, if it's all sub 2 foot, then they get ice, whatever you call it, like molecules in the gills. And as that expands and stuff, it can damage their gills.
Wow.
So that is something, you know, or if it freezes right the way down, clearly, but that would have to be a bit extreme.
Shit,
but yeah, I think really bad winters would be a concern. But the original fish in here have been in here for donkey's years with no issue. So I think it's got enough water for them to get by.
And what about heat? Obviously, that's the cold end of the scale. What about the hot end of the scale?
Well, again, the hotter it is and the shallower it is, the less, you know, the oxygen is available to them in the water. So, you know, it is a concern. And when you factor in everything else, you know, your algae blooms, your all the bits we talked about earlier, yeah, that's where you have problems. It does exacerbate it a little bit, I think. So to us, if you look at a lake like this, the whole success stroke failure of it is getting people to be here to fish, to develop the lake and push the fish on, essentially. If you had even a smattering of nice looking 30-pounders, it creates interest, it makes people want to come here and put the effort in to fish it and conversely feed the fish at the same time. Now, with fish that we've got in here, so we had some priories and some VS. All those fish in those batches that went elsewhere have done 40 pounds. If you look at the ones in here, probably mid to upper 20 is the best you've got. A lot of them are still, you know, in that 20-pound bracket. And that's simply because of the food thing, you know. It's not the most naturally rich of lakes, so they're surviving essentially on what we give them. And if the birds are taking 95% of that, then you're going to have issues in terms of those fish never really going anywhere. In a standard fishery environment, you know, an open fishery, clearly these wouldn't work particularly well to start with, but because this lake is shut and we've been feeding it right the way since the back end of lockdown, opening up really, those fish are conditioned to that now. You know, like I've said before, the natural food in here is on the low side, so it's an easy meal, it's a safe meal, and they come pretty readily to it.
Okay, so I've grabbed a spoonful of the bait out of the bucket. There's something quite different about this pellet to the pellet that most people probably see and use during their carp fishing. Why is it this colour? What is this pellet? And why is it this that you feed the fish?
Yeah, so generally in a fish farm scenario, this is what you go to. If they're getting it all the time, certainly I find that they eat this more readily. The higher oil stuff's more pokey for them. So although when it's really hot, they will eat it. If you're giving it to them every day, you find it difficult to get it into them in the right quantities. So yeah, the low oil is definitely for sort of a farm regular feeding scenario. It's not so good in a fishing situation because again, it's not as pokey, but for feeding fish every day, a lot of people go with the low oil.
Like you said earlier, This is a proper meal. The high oil is your McDonald's.
Yeah, 100%.
Which
yeah.
I love.
Yeah, oil all the way.
I would be a fat carp.
You and me both. Yeah.
At the start of this film, I mentioned how I was looking forward to seeing the lake, but on top of that, I was looking forward to seeing the fish that we stopped back in March. And from what the boys have told me, the fish are doing really well. And from what I've seen today, I have to agree with them. Crazy to see them swimming around in that water. And when you're looking at them from above, it really highlights just how shallow and hostile this environment is, but it is on the up. And the next time you see us will be the depths of the winter for the next stage of the development of this rather wonderful lake.